Okay, I'm here with the Republican candidate for State Senate in the 24th District, Michelle Coelho. Very nice to meet you here today. Thank you again for giving me the opportunity to talk to you. But before we get into anything political related, just tell me something personal about yourself. Tell me about, who is Michelle Coelho? Give me your background.
Okay. So I'm a wife. I have 3 children. I was previously married. So I was a single parent. I moved to Danbury because it was affordable and safe. My first husband is African American, so my son is biracial, and then I remarried to Michael Coelho, and we have 2 more children, so they're 24, 16, and 12. I am a project design manager, so I am in development overseeing construction, residential, and was the first developer here in Rivington and several other communities in the area as well as Westchester and Long Island. So I have an interior design background and my real estate license as well. Other than that, I am a first generation Cuban American. I'm very proud to be. And so I've always listened to my parents and the struggle. They had to escape an oppressive government, ended up having to flee. I had one aunt that was shot in a peaceful mass. I had to be pulled out and taken care of very quietly so that they would not think that she was a radical. I also had another aunt that was imprisoned for a month because my father had left and was associated with him. And my father barely escaped through a strip search. They had pulled him off the line, and it was, scary stuff. Only 50 years ago. So he did end up escaping and left everything behind. His grandfather had won the largest lottery in Cuba at the time, and was able to leave with his life, $5 in a suitcase, and a dime that they found on the boat. And so for me, always been a proud American and aware of what communism is and what it is to be an American.
Why are you running for State Senate?
Because my opponent, Julie Kushner, refuses to listen to what the people need and want in this city. So as time has progressed, and I was watching what happened, we only switched over in 2018 to a Democratic delegation, right, at the state level. And those are those decisions that have been being made are working against this community, this district, from small business, our education. When a government proposes the fact that they would have more power over children and the students than a parent, that's what made me get involved in this process. And I've kind of just stepped into running for state senate because I realized that there are a lot of decisions being made that I'm opposed to, and thousands of other people are as well. And I saw that support when I ran for the Board of Ed and parental rights, voice and choice.
This is your first run for state office, and I remember you from a year ago. I saw you at the PTO meeting running for Board of Ed.
Yes.
Now, how was that experience running for a local level for Board of Ed?
It was, for me, oh boy, it was a lot of work because I was not used to, running for office. I really just went down. I found out where is the DRTC, and so I could help because I was, as other parents, very concerned with Connecticut's decision to be the only 2 states on the eastern seaboard that was extending the mandates, the executive powers. And for me, that was a big problem. So I just went to see, how can I help? How can I help? What can I do? And it was proposed by my great friend, Jan Gigler, you should run for Board of Education. And I thought, okay, whatever I can do. And I was still working full time, driving down to Rybrook, doing my job down there, and running for Board of Ed. And it was wonderful. And I'll tell you, the best part is the connecting with the community and all the people, the wonderful people and experiences that you have. So it was wonderful. We ended up, or I don't want to say it's we ended up winning the second highest votes on the entire ballot for the Danbury of all the candidates that were running. And I, first-time candidate, you know, I don't have name recognition like others in the community. So it was really a testament of what the people in this, in Danbury want, and we're not being, they weren't listening. You know, our representatives were just not listening. So I was thrilled to work alongside with Dean Esposito, or Mayor Dean Esposito, and to see him, you know, win was so big for me. It was huge. And then to get on the Board of Ed, and I'm, you know, a new candidate and a new official, and I'm learning. But I am really, I represent the people in Danbury on that Board of Ed. Obviously, I don't speak for the board, but you know, I base my decisions on listening to the community, and it may not always be the position that my party takes. You know, I don't go along to get along. I go with what is right, or, you know, to listen to somebody else's perspective. I welcome it. If it's not the same as mine, even more so. I'm looking to continue to learn and change my perspective and keep learning. So for me, Board of Ed is very rewarding. Again, I'm a new candidate, so, you know, I'm learning still. I think they say it takes a couple of years to really know every aspect of what's going on. But when we were able to raise the mask mandate, that was really just amazing.
Did you feel that the mask mandates were going too long, or what was the opposition towards the mask mandate? What was your biggest gripe about it?
Well, unfortunately, you know, we are a busy city, and, you know, we have to get things on the calendar, but it was looking like it would be extending through more so towards the end of the year. And for me, it's one thing if the state is mandating it, but once they were lifting that mask mandate, I believe it was somewhere around February 7th or so, you know, to have the people, our residents in this community wait 6 weeks or so to even address the matter was an issue for me. You know, we should at least propose to our community what is available and then get the feedback. But really, what for me, I noticed, I have a son, you know, who really struggled with this mask mandate, and there was a lot of mental depression that I was seeing. You know, he went from a solid B student to D's, F's, premier soccer player to, you know, not wanting to engage. And there was a lot of focus on the mask mandate, and if they, you know, I was following the science. You know, I looked at 150 surveys, you know, CDC, you know, all of it, and all of them kind of broke down that the mask mandates weren't really working. You know, I was following the science. But for me, mental impact, depression was not being addressed. And we see that today. I mean, we are at the Board of Education, expulsion hearings are through the roof. There's a crisis. And so now you have the social emotional learning, and how do we implement that? How do we have a learning loss of a year, right? So, it was just a question of letting the community know and letting them decide. And there was a big reaction. They came to the meetings, they wrote letters, you know, so it's the ability to give that opportunity to the community and the residents and let them say yes or no. And they overwhelmingly said, you know, that they wanted it lifted. And I'm glad that the Board of Ed was able to move things around. We needed to change the policy decision in order to get on the calendar for the mask mandate lift. And, you know, our chair was able to arrange that, which is great. And, you know, we all spoke about it, and it was unanimous, which was great. And if a child wants to wear a mask, 2, 3 masks, by all means. But I know that I had an experience when I was younger that, you know, limited my ability to breathe. So for me, it is a struggle to wear that mask. And there are other children that feel the same way.
So, you know, now the Board of Ed and the local races are behind us now. Now we're going to a state level. It's a different ball game. The 24th district is pretty big. It comprises of New Fairfield, Danbury, and Ridgefield. three communities with different
Oh.
problems and different situations, different issues in each one of those communities. So tell me, how is your campaign for state senate going? Are you learning a lot by, again, Danbury's one thing, but the 24th is a little bigger, a little more complex.
We are so blessed in the 24th. We have everything. We have your diversity in Danbury. We have in New Fairfield, your, more of a blue collar and hardworking community. So special. And then you have Ridgefield, a little more affluence, but still just such a wonderful town. They all offer, I just can't tell you, I love going to all of them. And I'm so supported by all of the RTCs there, and just the community. I just love going and meeting more individuals. And as you said, we all, like for instance, all of these three communities have different needs. In education, there's a perfect example where we have the diversity in Danbury and not so much in Ridgefield and New Fairfield, but it is happening for them, and organically, right? Because we have so many people coming into Danbury and just moving out. But again, they do have different needs, and different solutions are needed, which is another reason why State Senate, I'm basically looking to run for state in order to keep local control. That's really the basics of it. For me, it's 169 towns, districts, and they're different, and we need to be able to make sure that we get what we need, not what we're told by the state we should have. So again, like in Danbury, we really have the diversity. We need that public charter school, and I know that Ridgefield and New Fairfield support that need for Danbury, but at the same time we have to make sure that we bring the funding not only for the separate stream of funding that is available to us in Danbury, but also bring down funding for special education for both Ridgefield and New Fairfield. I know that there were decisions made at the state level where they cut it. They changed the formula, so they're going to be getting less. And with the needs that we have here, especially after the pandemic, we have to make sure that we are tapping into every single opportunity that is available to us. And that's something that is just not being done. It is not about philosophy, one's own philosophy of choice. It is about listening to your entire district and being an advocate for them, not for your own party or union. So there's a big difference between our current state senator and who I would be or will be as your senator.
I know one of the issues that's been happening in this area for quite some time is educational funding. And the topic of a charter school has been pretty controversial in the area. The current state senator, Julie Kushner, is very much opposed to charter schools, and she explained why she's opposed to it. So real briefly, could you explain to me in simple layman's terms why you support a public charter school here for the city?
Okay. So again, we have one of the largest in Danbury. I'm going to say we have one of the largest high schools. We only have one, and then we have that Henry Abbott Tech, which is more of a technical, smaller. But we have 3,600 students in Danbury High School. There is no reason that now that we've become an alliance district, because our grades, our student grading has gone down so much, that we now have access to funding that we've been paying for year after year, but just never had the access to it. So in 2018, October 3rd, 2018, it was passed, the state passed the ability to add a charter school here in Danbury, which is huge. It would be for 770 students that would have the ability only within our district, within Danbury. So it's not like a magnet school where you can come from Bethel and other areas. It would literally service our kids. Now, we are overcrowded in Danbury. All right, so we had 11,800 students at the beginning of last year. We are at 12,200. We've, so there's around 400 or 500 students. That's a high school that came last year and that we did not have funding for, that we're trying to figure out how do we get them the services, especially with after the pandemic. There are multitude of second language learners. Now, I'm Hispanic, I'm I speak Spanish. I understand the difficulty because I was raised first learning Spanish and then going to school and having that, difficulty of learning, that learning curve. We do an amazing job at Danbury. We have, as a board, tried to allocate as much funding as we can for special education to meet those needs with the COVID aftermath, as well as our second language learners. The school, the charter school, would actually accommodate, it was created, it is a public, nonprofit, state-approved school, just like the magnet school is, the technical, our career academy that we just got, which will, thank goodness, accommodate 1,400 students. But we also built, several years ago, our freshman wing over at Danbury High School. That was supposed to be good for 5 years. It got filled within like a year and a half. We cannot accommodate the amount of people that are coming. So this school, this public charter school, right now, by not having approved it, we are losing about $10 million a year in funding outside of our traditional public school. We would still get that funding. It is just that my opponent, and I just can't understand why, refuses to acknowledge it or to get us that funding. Now, we were given a gift of $25 million from a private donor that would assist in the building of the school. But we can only get, so it's been 2018, we still don't have the approval. My opponent continues to block it.
One of the main arguments from charter school critics is that by bringing in a charter school, you're taking money that would be going towards public education and giving it towards a charter school. So bringing a charter school would actually hurt public schools. What do you say to that?
That is completely not the case. As an alliance district, right, city, we are the only city that does not have public charter school. Again, it's a nonprofit public school. So just as we have Henry Abatek, we have magnet schools, we have a public charter school. They do not take away from the traditional public school. They are an addition to. So we deserve our new career academy, and we also deserve our public charter school. The reason that we would not get the funding is because our representative, our state senator, as well as the representatives currently that are in position, refuse to acknowledge to get those funds. So we would actually be enhancing. It would be the same system. They would share busing, special education like all of the other schools, and let's say sports or facilities, right? We still have to accommodate the overcrowding here. That is the case here. So this is the perfect solution. We could address it quickly, and we would not be putting the burden on our taxpayer and on our city. So when we say that it actually would take money away, that is not the case. The teachers that would be teaching there, again, would be considered public employees. If they wanted to unionize, they could. And again, much stricter oversight. Now, I'm on the Board of Education in Danbury, so I do see, what the process is for public charter schools in order to keep it as transparent as possible. In a traditional school, we are always trying to, make the system better and address any of the concerns, but we continue to have to put money behind it. In a charter school, you have those 5 years, you have to keep reapplying. If you're not meeting those standards and if those students aren't making the grade, then that's it. They don't approve the charter school. But we would have a brand new school on Main Street, And if anything, that's when they would donate the school to the city. So, there is no reason that we would be considering taking funding away from a public charter school when it's, again, a public school.
You've been very vocal in your support for the charter schools, and I know that the organization LEAD is still, they've been at this for quite some time, trying to get recognized and get the charter school opened up. What do you think about the opposition towards this? It's been very vocal and it's been very concrete on their stance. They're just, no, we're not going to entertain a charter school in here. What are your thoughts in regards to this whole issue on a political level? Because it seems like we're at a stalemate here where one side is saying, hey, we want a charter school, and the other side's like, no, we're not going to give you a charter school no matter what.
Well, back in 2018 when it was passed, it was clear. It went to the people. The people wanted it. So did leaders in the community. We had neighboring, I believe that Bethel schools, there were several people that, were in part of the process overall, even outside of Danbury. And it was clear that we wanted it and that the people wanted it, and it was approved. This is only because of, in 2015, they changed the way that it was going to be funded. So now it's the chicken, is it the chicken or the egg? So you have to have the funding from the state for the charter school, but the charter school then will, the Connecticut Assembly will not recognize or fund it because the school doesn't exist. So it's very complicated because of the way that they structured it. They approved it, but they didn't fund it. So there's really no reason. This people spoke a long time ago, and it was approved. And now all of a sudden, we're playing games. I've been researching, and first they came out with it's a private school. It's not a public charter. After this run, obviously there was community awareness that it's a public school. So now the new position is that it would defund. I believe my opponent said, how is it that we can fund 2 schools if we can not even fund 1? Well, that's easy. Go to Hartford and bring back our tax money and the available separate funding stream that would be available for the charter school. One doesn't have to take away from the other, but we should, and we have the right to both.
The people who are against charter schools are also saying that, look, the city of Danbury does not does not fund enough money towards local education, where people who are pro-charter school or Republicans will say, hey, look, the state, on the state level, is not giving us enough ECS funding on the state level when you compare it against other municipalities. You're on the Board of Ed, so you're seeing this firsthand. What do you think about the state funding side of this situation? Because we're not talking about local, you're running for state senate, so what are your thoughts about the ECS funding? Do you think we get enough money, or what would you do if you're up there at the state senate to make sure we get more dollars back here to Danbury?
Yeah, we don't. The reason that we have ECS formulas are different across the districts, so it makes it very difficult for somebody to understand when you see that it shows 169 out of 169. Well, in our formula, we include maintenance and transportation, where another school may not. So it's really not apples to apples. That's the first misleading thing. Secondly, if my opponent, again, would have selected, or wasted, instead of spending all her time fighting for the charter school to not happen and actually fought to get the funds that we need, that would be great, right? That would make all the difference. The ECS funding that we have currently in place, my opponent, I'm going to say, is directly attached to the fact that, to the reason why we have to wait, I believe it is until 2028, to fully be funded. She is behind that decision. So this goes back year after year where the decisions are so poor and impact our community severely. So the ECS funding, we need a better distribution on our funds, but she has directly impacted that formula and how we now are struggling with this financial cliff in 2023. $16 million, you know. We can't continue to raise taxes, but we should be, you know, for every percent that we save, you know, if that means we get money from a different fund or we really push harder to change the formula, whatever it takes, that's what I'm willing to do, is find out how can we make our schools affordable, you know, and really provide the services, because with every mandate that's impacts our Board of Education funds, we have to take away from programs that we're offering, right? So if you've got a journalist class or you've got art, or, you know, we've already went through this many years ago, the cuts are going to be there. So, you know, the ECS funding, we need to change, and we need to do that by changing our leadership.
Okay. So, again, we'll get off education. I'll go to another topic that impacts everybody here in this area. It's transportation. We're here on Mill Plain Road at the Republican headquarters. You look outside of Mill Plain Road, it's full of traffic on a Friday. And anybody knows that if you're over here on this side of town, it takes you forever to get over to Newtown Road over on the other side of Danbury. Transportation has always been a big concern in this area. What are your thoughts about transportation, especially Interstate 84 and also the state roads? You have Route 6, Route 37, Route 39. You have Route 35, and you have let's see, gosh, there's Route 25, Route 34. I mean, you know, there's a lot. There's a lot.
Sure,
a lot of traffic. And what are your thoughts about traffic concerns in this area? And what would you do as a state senator to maybe to bring some attention to what's happening in this area? Because some people feel that we're being, you know, overlooked for other areas, and we're not getting our fair share of dollars to address our state roads. Right.
We need to take care of that, obviously. But for me, I know that the local municipality, Mayor Dean Esposito and their team are speaking to the state about trying to get that downtown, get the railroad. You know, that would alleviate, because we are exploding here. We have so many people coming to Danbury, you know.
I think we're the second largest municipality in the state. I think Stanford was number one and we're
yes,
number two.
Yep. And so, you know, as I said before, I was here when the developing of Rivington and other communities. I just left Frybrook, finishing a community there of 110 units where, you know, again, Stanford, everybody coming from the city, so I see it happening. We're growing at such a clip that we need public transportation. We need to address the HART bus as well, and our seniors, because we have a lot of seniors that need access to this. Traffic is a big problem, but if we can move our city and our state legislators to really fund and develop downtown and really make that a real source of people leaving their car and taking the train. You know, right now, I'm from Long Island originally, so traffic is something I completely understand. Long Island Expressway, Cross Island, all of it. So when I got up to Danbury, I was like, wow, there's not a lot of traffic. But I've seen it over the last 25 years just, you know, become Long Island in a sense. But they do have the railroads there, and they do have options. So we need more options. And, you know, I know it's not something that happens overnight, but it really needs to be a priority for us, because we can't just, you know, it can't be a Chinese fire drill where, you know, you're not thinking ahead for what we already know is here and more coming, right? Because we are an incredible city. I mean, you know, AAA bonded, you know, we are responsible. But with the influx of so many people coming in from the bordering state, you know, we're challenged. And so those challenges need to be met, and we definitely need more public transportation to alleviate some of this traffic on the roads.
I want to briefly talk about issues that are on a national level that we're talking about in all the states. And one of the big topics is abortion. And I know that, you know, we've seen some some mailers here. You know, we got mailers. We got a lot of mail. I can't wait for this election to be over so I don't have so much mail in my mailbox from you guys. It's
I
crazy.
think I got some coming out as well.
Oh boy. Okay. So this election is very intense. There's a lot of back and forth going on, and I want to hit the tough topics here. And abortion is one of them because we have. It's so funny. In the mail that I got one day, I got here saying that you support women's choice here. And then we have one here saying that, you know, you want to make abortion illegal. And I saw there's a particular ad that's on TV, online right now, saying that, given your stance that we're at the Ridgefield Forum. So clear things up here, you know, do you want to, or you want to side, I'll read it right here, Michelle Coelho sides with her party leaders who would make abortion illegal. What is your stance on abortion? Are you pro-choice or are you pro-life? I'll give you an opportunity to address this and go right ahead.
Pro-choice. That's it, pro-choice. And you'll find that I have that stance on multiple fronts, you know, because I believe individual freedoms, rights, and choice are essential. So, answer your question, pro-choice. You know, there are some things I believe I did mention, like parental, not notifying a parent. You know, so if you're 13 years old and you're going to have an abortion, you don't have to inform the parent.
So you're for parental notification?
I am for parental notification. That does not exist right now. So if a 16-year-old can't go to a tanning bed without, you know, how is it that a 13-year-old can get an abortion and the parent doesn't know? So, you know, there are a couple, and this is just a personal thought, but I am pro-choice. I believe that the woman has the right to make that decision with themselves, the doctor, and God. I don't believe, you know, outside distractions, government. In either way, I believe in the right to choice. So I am pro-choice.
Well, at the forum, when Senator Kushner gave a response and the mic was given over to you, it said that you disagree. What did you disagree with in regards to that? What she was saying?
That original question that was given, and so I disagree.
Can you just actually for the audience, can you explain what the question was? Because people might not quite understand.
I'm trying to remember what the question was, but it was to the four.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It was to the four candidates that were running for state senate, and what I was disagreeing with was that somebody had made the comment that that Connecticut now is going to get rid of abortion laws because of what happened with the Constitution, and that now women would lose their right to choose, or, you know, and so I said I disagree with the explanation that was being discussed at the time. And I was making it clear that Connecticut is codified for 30 years on abortion. There is no need to scare people to think that they're not going to have a choice. I grew up in a time where we always had a choice. It was always available to me. So for me, it is about choice, and I am not in fear that Connecticut is going to eliminate that choice for someone. You know, I'm Catholic, you know, so these are things that are personal to one. It's a very layered discussion or issue. And if I have to choose, even if it's 1%, I'm always going to choose for choice, because there are circumstances and you should have that right for whatever your reason may be.
Now, you did also say, because I was at the forum as well, and you also talked about, you are for choice, but you did talk about the
Viability?
The viability, and you want to have an open discussion about with the current technology. Can you just elaborate into that? Because some people would say that that is a restriction.
Yeah, and actually, I don't know if it's so much a restriction. Originally, when the bill or the law was passed, it was 12 weeks, right? Then I believe then it was 15 weeks that you would have the right to. For viability, right? In Connecticut, it's 24 to 26 weeks. And again, 30 years ago. So I know now, that they have better technology, right? It's like anything. I'm not sure where that viability moment happens, right? So you know that it takes you 12 weeks to find out that there's a heartbeat, right? So 15 or 20 weeks, I believe, your lungs are developed and, the baby be able to sustain outside of the body. But, I don't really know. Where is that exact moment? I don't know if technology has a better handle on it. It's not something I've pursued. It's just 24 to 26 weeks is a lot more than what the law had initially intended. But I'm not looking to make any radical changes here, I believe in choice, and I believe in one's freedom to make that choice. So if you're going to ask me if I'm okay with abortion a month before birth, then, that's a whole different conversation for me, But viability, if that is when it happens at 24 weeks, and that's what technology and that's what is proven or shown, then that's what it is. It just seems with everything, with development in technology, that we just have the 3D imaging and all that, possibly a better sense of the issue. But in no form would I ever take away somebody's right. And that's it.
All right, and there was another mailer that went out that talked about your support for Donald Trump, and it called, I think the mailer, I don't have it on me here, but it called you an election denier. So I just want to get that out now because I want to hit all these things, get them out of the way so we can get on to other topics here. Do you believe that Joe Biden is the duly elected president of the United States?
Absolutely. And I respect anybody in that office, period. So, as soon as Joe Biden, the election occurred and he was, sworn in and all of it, that's it. That's my president. And I pray for his success because it's our success, right? That's how I was brought up, right? So I don't have election. I don't deny the election. You know what? If you want change, then you're going to have to work harder. The people are going to come out and vote, and you're just going to make that change. But
did you give the other thing that happened in the mail? It said that you gave donations to a committee that denied the election.
I don't know. To be honest with you, I don't know what they're referencing. Have I supported candidates? Have I supported? Yes, I have. Actually, I've supported many of candidates, not so much now because I'm running and I'm too caught up in it, but I don't know in specifically what they're talking about. And, I support certain candidates, but I will tell you that the day that our president became president, that was it. I made sure that, I supported him, any kind of, anything. I support our president.
Okay, and finally, with the January 6th, what are your thoughts about January 6th itself? Do you think that was an abhorrent act, or did you support that act, or support the rally? Or?
This might be where my opponent and I are actually in agreement for once. I consider that day to have been a total attack on our Constitution and our government, period. So was it alarming, offensive? Absolutely, to our republic. So I actually agree with her. That was horrible. Do I know the details surrounding it? I don't think anybody does, right? It is what it is. This nonsense for me, this is just distractions. This is not on the ballot. It was how many years ago, right? 2 years ago. I really think we have so many more important things here, locally. That is just a distraction, and I frankly feel it's because they don't have a position on what's going on here. So, we're looking for nonsense, and I just don't have time for it.
There's people in the community saying, look, we are being brutalized by the police. We're being mistreated by the police. And they're showing examples of this. George Floyd is a perfect example. You saw a police officer who had his knee on his neck and killed the guy while being recorded. And there have been incidents in Connecticut where there's been mistreatment by the police towards residents. Where do you strike the balance with that? Because there are people who are saying, this police accountability bill came out of a result of people who had concerns about the police. So what do we do here?
Again, I obviously we need to address the issue with both training, mental depression, give them the services that they would need, right? And that perfect example is Sandy Hook, right? So we had set up a fund just for that, so that anybody who was there that day, including the police officers, could access that fund for, any kind of mental health that they need. That's so important, right? I agree that you're going to have bad apples in like any field, and that was brutal, right? Just brutal. But you can't swing all the way in one direction, right? You got to stay somewhere in the middle. So we can't just notice and respond, react, and really kind of take away the support and equipment and training that is needed for the police, right? So if we see that there's a problem that had occurred like that, we need to make sure that we implement the right amount of training, the money, the funds, whatever it takes to make sure that our police are taken care of and safe, as well as our community, right? So those cameras are part of that, a good part of that solution, right? Because now we can see exactly what happened, right? We can hear it right there. That's instrumental in making sure that, we continue. Like, that is a step that came out of a tragedy, right? A positive step. And it's positive when the community and the police are both in agreement, right? So we want to make sure that we continue that. There is a huge problem that this bill has created, as far as, I call it ring and run. They're having Danbury Mall is one of the highest locations on the northeast coast here of stealing cars. So you'll have incidences now with this new accountability bill, which does not allow you to pursue, right? So they'll steal a car, go over to Walmart, start stealing. You get a call from the store and the people videotaping, like, they're watching a TV show, a reality show. The police are called. The criminal now knows that if they get in that vehicle before those police officers actually are able to get out and apprehend them, they got an escort, literally an escort. They can only follow the vehicle until where the perimeter is, where that area was, that perimeter, and then they got to turn off the lights and stop following. What they do is then they go over to Jimmy's Market and do it again, and they get called again. So it's called ring and run for me. That is not acceptable. You should, if you are in a stolen vehicle and you were called because items were stolen, you should have the right to pull that vehicle over. And it also took away your right to be able to question the passenger of the police officer. I mean, we're tying their hands, and it just increases crime. So, where they were stealing the catalytic converters at night, they're stealing them now during the middle of the day. They don't care. So a lot of changes need to be made in order to keep our police safe, our community safe. And I always say, where education and the police go, our city goes. And right now, it's not looking good.
Touch on a couple more things because we don't have a whole lot more time here. Let's go outside of Danbury. One thing I always like to do when we talk about districts that have multiple municipalities in it is to talk about the other areas, because I like to talk about Ridgefield, I like to talk about New Fairfield. But I want to talk about New Fairfield real quick, because one issue that always comes up in New Fairfield time and time and time again is about Squan's Pond and the parking situation over there. It's always been, as long as I've been living here, it's always been an issue. And I just want to get your thoughts on that situation because I know you've been walking around talking to people in the area. I'm sure you've heard about Squanch Pond. I mean, that's probably one of the biggest things. What is your thoughts about that situation over there, and what would you do as state senator to help address that situation?
So the issue is overcrowding of the state park, right? I think it allows like 250 cars in, and then it does not allow any other vehicles in. They consider themselves full. But they do allow walkers in. So what is happening is you're just having people parking along the streets in businesses, just very, very unsafe. Children and everyone walking by becomes very unsafe, and also trash. You know, you'll go into where I guess they're parking and they're bringing all their supplies and have no regard for the community. So I did speak with Representative Pat Callahan on this. I know he is an advocate, and we were speaking about, you know, when I'm elected, that would be one of the bills, because I know that he has tried in the past to get legislation to reduce the amount of cars that are going in there and to somehow address the situation where they're not allowed to just park on the state, you know, road. It's also a problem because locals aren't even able to access, you know, a park that's right there in their backyard. Somebody made like a comment. I go, wow, how did you get in? I mean, it's kind of crazy. Oh, we go there at 5 in the morning. You know, it's just, it's a small community, and safety and the services that the city provide or the town provides should be for the people. And so let's say they start, I don't know, maybe taxing those individuals. Maybe that can be used for the parks themselves, you know, but I would definitely gain knowledge, more knowledge on this, you know, issue, and work with Pat hand in hand to make sure that it gets rectified, because it is a concern for New Fairfield and even for Danbury. You know, there are people, we all want to, you know, be a part of what's available, right, to us, but it has to be in the right way. And again, this has to do with that whole overcrowding, or, you know, having New York come over. And, you know, it's great that you utilize the park, but it can't be at the detriment of the local town.
So another item that people want to talk about, or that a lot of people are talking about, is local zoning laws. What are your thoughts on the local zoning laws? Because I know that affects Danbury, that definitely affects Ridgefield, that affects New Fairfield. What are your thoughts on local zoning? What's the name of that thing?
830G.
830G,
Yeah.
yes, okay. What are your thoughts on that?
So, as I said, 30 years I'm in construction and project development. So, Rivington, we addressed that back in the day, make sure that we had affordable housing, and we meet that criteria. It's 10%, we exceed it like 12% in Danbury, but our local towns don't, Ridgefield and New Fairfield. For me, I'm a strong advocate to make sure that those towns are able to have their own voice and make those decisions locally, not to take it out of your local hand and give it to the state, and then they dictate what is going to be built there. And you might just, I think, be able to figure out the height of a sign. I know that Ridgefield just is in the middle of doing that, of meeting and trying to propose different options. I think that they actually had a vote recently to move forward with that. But I think it is critical that it stay local, and that the people, the residents in that town, make a decision. It's their investment. It's why they're there. It is a reason as to why they may have moved there. Historic buildings. It's critical that, you know, we keep the integrity of that community, and organically it does grow. We do need to find solutions, right? Because there needs to be affordability if they don't have any, but you also have to make sure that they can accommodate it. I know New Fairfield is having issues with sewer and their business and water. So, you know, you've got to develop that together. You can't just give that power to the state and not have the people directly involved in what their community is going to look like.